Hey, what's up, everyone? It's GleeCon, and I'm back again, dropping another episode of Lore of Warcraft. Thank you so much for tuning in. At the end, I'll check in with the scheduling of the show, how it's been lately, and how it's going to be coming up. But this show is a show where we cover, outside of me and my life, we cover everything in the World of Warcraft universe, every game, every piece of lore, both in-game and out, non-canon and canon. And then what we've been doing lately is trying to catch up on all the non-canon lore that led us up to Classic. So we're still in the characters or time period of War of the Ancients, where a lot of the lore at that time, when those things were first being discussed, was put on a site called Warcraft. Well, it's actually the World of Warcraft website, and a portion of the site called the Warcraft Encyclopedia. That's now considered non-canon due to a lot of retconning and other tinkering with the lore. But we are still covering it just to kind of check it out because it's pretty fun. Last time we did an episode on a double episode, too many entries on Latocious, who was a leader of like the mages that worked for the Highborn, and Cortellus Ravencrest, who was a physical leader, a leader of the armed forces of the Night Elves at the time of the Ancients. So stay a while and listen as we cover one of my personal favorite characters in all of World of Warcraft, Maiev Shadowsong. That's how I say her name. I've been known to say many things wrong, and maybe it's Maeve Shadowsong. I don't know. I've always said it Maiev, but I could be 100% wrong. Maiev Shadowsong belonged to the Sisters of Elune. This is her picture right here. I'm going to probably try to use that as the picture for the thumbnail for the video because I like that picture. Belonged to the Sisters of Elune by the time the War of the Ancients broke out, and her brother Jared, who we just did him a couple episodes ago, had become a captain in the Guard of Suramar. Again, pretty cool zone in Legion. You can explore it. The Shadowsong family was not of noble blood, and so both siblings had earned their positions through skill and hard work, yet another aspect that makes them some of the coolest heroes in all the lore. The Fortunes of War is our first entry. She actually has a few because she's so important to the overall story. Leading the other priestesses into battle, High Priestess Dejana was mortally wounded, and she named Tyrande Whisperwind as her successor. Check back previous episodes. We've done episodes on both of those two characters. As one of the senior members of the Order, Maiev was bitterly disappointed. Tyrande, who was only a novice at the time, had clearly been gifted with the exceptional healing abilities by Elune. However, Tyrande lacked Maiev's experience, and in Maiev's opinion, spent too much time meditating on the goddess's loving and peaceful aspects. In a time of war, Maiev felt that Tyrande would have made a far better medic than a leader. Nevertheless, Maiev grudgingly acknowledged the new High Priestess and followed her orders. That's foreshadowing right there. Nor was this to be Maiev's only surprise during the war. Throughout the course of the Night Elves' fight against the Burning Legion, her brother Jared was unexpectedly catapulted into prominence. When Lord Cortellus Ravencrest, commander of the Night Elf Defenders, was assassinated, Jared soon stepped into the breach and displayed an intuitive grasp of tactics. The relieved nobles swiftly made Jared their new commander, to Maiev's poorly concealed amazement. By the end of the war, Jared had acquitted himself with honor. Even Maiev, who had been highly critical of her brother in the past, could not deny his heroism. She was furious when she discovered that Illidan Stormrage had attacked and injured her brother. Again, we also have done an episode on him. Jared had been leading a scouting party on Mount Hyjal and had caught Illidan in the process of creating a second Well of Eternity. Shortly thereafter, Malfurion arrived and captured his twin, putting an end to the combat. Also, we've done episodes on him. Enraged, Maiev drew her weapon and went to kill the captive Illidan, but Tyrande stopped her and reminded her that Jared still lived. Jared gave Malfurion the right to decide Illidan's fate, and so it was Malfurion who sentenced Illidan to imprisonment. And check out the book series, The War of the Ancients, for all of that, told very well. The next entry is the formation of the Watchers, also super dope characters, NPCs. Although she deeply respected Malfurion, his merciful decision hardly satisfied Maiev. She offered to watch over Illidan, whose attack on his fellow Night Elves had been the last straw. Most Night Elves now recognized him as both reckless and powerful. They had not forgotten that he had chosen to serve Sargeras, and they did not believe him when he swore he had done so only to gain sufficient power to defeat the Legion. Malfurion agreed that the Night Elves dared not leave Illidan unguarded in the long term, and so he asked Maiev to gather additional volunteers from the Sisterhood of Elune. Together, Maiev and the other priestesses would guard Illidan and prevent him from escape. Maiev obeyed and established a new organization that became known as the Watchers. As the group's leader, Maiev was given the rank of Warden, which she later awarded to a select few who had proven their exceptional fighting abilities, tracking skills, and tenacity. Like, if World of Warcraft was a fighting game, like the straight up rip the heroes and put them in like Overwatch, I would want to be a watcher. When Jared disappeared one night, Maiev was surprised and grieved that he had not spoken to her of his impending departure. In his absence, the Watchers became Maiev's sole companionship. As the years stretched into centuries and then millennia, she came to see the Watchers as her family. Because remember, this all happened 10,000 years ago, and she's still alive now. Ish. But we read about Jared's departure and kind of why a little bit more when we did his entry. Okay, the next point is called Illidan's Escape. Since Illidan's incarceration, the Watcher's primary mission remained their vigil over him. However, the Watcher's duties widened somewhat over time and began to include the capture, imprisonment, and where necessary, the recapture of all dangerous criminals. These new tasks occasionally took a Watcher far abroad, where she would remain until she tracked down and captured the criminal. I'm trying to remember what expansion really shows some more of that, where there's even a final boss involving fighting her. I want to say it's Legion. Shortly before the Third War broke out, Maiev departed the Barrow prisons in order to accomplish one such mission. She returned to find Illidan missing and a number of Watchers slain. Subsequent investigation led to a shocking conclusion. Tyrande and her sentinels had attacked the Watchers and freed Illidan. Even worse, Illidan had turned into a demon, confirming Maiev's worst fears. Filled with fury, Maiev gathered what she could of the remaining Watchers and began to track Illidan down. They pursued him through Ashenvale Forest and over the sea to the Broken Isles, then at last caught up with him in the tomb of Sargeras. By the time they confronted Illidan, however, he had already retrieved a magical artifact, the Eye of Sargeras. Illidan had not forgotten his long imprisonment. On the contrary, instead of learning from his punishment, Illidan had come to hate Maiev for enforcing his sentence. He used the power of the Eye to collapse that section of the tomb, flooding the area with water and trapping the Watchers. Maiev alone managed to escape, and she swore that she would avenge her murdered sisters. In one fell swoop, Illidan had wiped out almost all of Maiev's sisters in justice. Staggering back into her small base camp, Maiev dispatched a runner to Malfurion, warning him that Illidan was free again and carrying out dangerous magic. That is Warcraft 3. If you want to play through those adventures, they're actually pretty fun. They're not base building. There are some the exploration ones, dungeon ones. Next entry is called Forced Cooperation. Malfurion and Tyrande immediately hastened to the Broken Isles and helped Maiev fight off Illidan's Naga minions, but Illidan managed to escape to Lordaeron. Although Maiev was grateful for the rescue, she blamed Tyrande for Illidan's escape and his slaughter of the Watchers. While Malfurion went to commune with the land and discover his brother's whereabouts, Maiev and Tyrande continued the search for Illidan and encountered Prince Kael'thas Sunstrider. The prince was leading a large group of his people to safety. Maiev and Tyrande agreed to accompany Kael'thas and guard his people from Scourge attack. In return, the prince and his blood elves said they would help locate Illidan. Scourge forces ambushed the party at the Erebos River. Arrogantly certain that Elune would protect her, Tyrande stood her ground on the bridge and cast a destructive spell on the undead, while the blood elves retreated. Then the bridge gave way, and Tyrande was swept into the river and out of sight. With Illidan still on the loose, Maiev refused to spend precious time tracking down the High Priestess. Instead, with the Blood Elves' help, Maiev continued her search for Illidan. Eventually, she and the Blood Elves met up with Malfurion, and that takes us to what's it called? The expansion to Warcraft 3. Maybe the Frozen Throne. The means to an end is the next entry. Malfurion's love for Tyrande was well known and had lasted for thousands of years. Despite his wisdom, in which Maiev had no doubt, she knew that telling Malfurion the truth would lead to a further waste of time. He would opt to try rescuing his treacherous mate, who might already be dead, rather than pursue Illidan, who is clearly a terrible threat to the entire world. Accordingly, Maiev told Malfurion that Tyrande had been killed by the Scourge. She blamed Illidan for Tyrande's death. To Maev's relief, the prospect of revenge sufficed to motivate the grieving Malfurion, just as it kept Maiev herself going. Illidan would pay for all the deaths he had caused. Not too much later, Maiev, Malfurion, and the Blood Elves managed to corner Illidan. Illidan and the Naga were channeling a spell through the Eye of Sargeras, a spell whose raw power threatened to tear the planet apart. When the spell was interrupted, Illidan began his usual protests of innocence and self-justification, but Maiev would hear none of it. She sentenced him to death on the spot and went to carry out the sentence. Unfortunately, the truth about Tyrande's fate came to light just then, and Illidan was damnably quick to offer his assistance in rescuing Tyrande. Unable to refuse the help that he might get from the Naga and their evil master, Malfurion turned all his fear and rage on Maiev instead of Illidan. He called roots out of the ground to hold her fast, while he and Illidan departed to Ronda. Continued Warcraft 3 expansion. Mercy or justice. Freeing herself from the grasping plants and gathering her few remaining soldiers took Maiev long enough that Illidan succeeded in saving the High Priestess. By the time Maiev caught up with the demon, Malfurion and Tyrande were bidding him a farewell that sounded almost fond. They were letting him go. He was a demon who had murdered countless innocents, spread corruption and madness among the beasts of the forest, and nearly caused irreparable harm to Azeroth. Jared had given Malfurion the responsibility to determine Illidan's fate, but Malfurion was letting the demon go because Illidan had saved Tyranda's life. Evidently, Malfurion felt that Illidan had been washed clean of all the blood he had spilled. Maiev disagreed. The Watchers were gone, betrayed by their own government. If that government would not at least avenge their deaths, then Byalune, Maiev would see it done herself. Thus, when Illidan suddenly opened a portal and stepped through it, Maiev and her soldiers followed him without a second thought. She knew that Illidan placed great value on his life and would never deliberately endanger it. And her final entry is called No Mercy, No Surrender. Emerging from the portal, Maiev and her soldiers found themselves on the shattered planet of Outland. They soon discovered that Illidan had come alone, leaving his Naga servants on Azeroth. Greatly outnumbered, Illidan discovered that his evil powers were of little use against cold steel, and his recapture proved to be fairly easy. Too easy. Maiev was bringing the caged demon back to her base when she was attacked. The Naga had arrived on Outland, and they had brought new allies. The same Blood Elves that Maiev had helped escape the Scourge earlier. Maiev and her soldiers fought the Naga and their traitorous elven friends, but the new enemy outnumbered hers, and eventually she was defeated. The Naga and Blood Elves recaptured Illidan and freed him. Illidan and his allies have had little or no communication with the living denizens of Azeroth since that time. His brief return to Azeroth and his defeat by Arthas Menethil are of course public knowledge, but Maev's ultimate fate has remained a matter of conjecture. Neither she nor any of her followers have been sighted on Azeroth since they followed Illidan to Outland. Given her unrelenting hate for Illidan, his continued good health is obviously a very bad sign. She's presumed dead, slain during her pursuit of vengeance. Not quite. Alright everyone, so that's cool. That's another really good character, and I look forward to playing through the expansion, Burning Crusade and Beyond, when we get there, to find out what happened to this cool character. As far as the scheduling of the show goes, so this week you may have noticed I've just been slowly popping out a few of these side lore shorts. I am in I have extremely rough couple months of work coming up. So for the next 2 months, probably till the end of March, my work schedule is going to be extremely intense. I'll be putting in 50 to 60 hour weeks every week from now until then. Do not worry. My salary will not be increasing. If you'd like to save me from that, please like and subscribe. Leave some comments and help me get out of the grind by doing this, what I love, and getting to spend more time with that. But in the meantime, there's just not enough. It's very hard for me to pull 12+ hour days and then come home and still have time to make like a 2-hour video and then get up and do it again. Not to mention do the groundwork that comes with that. I still intend to try to put out at least 3 episodes of the long type each week. So I will push myself to do that. And our episode count should still keep climbing because I'll still try to also put out these shorties for us as much as possible too. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, and for tuning in. We got this one in the pipe 5x5. And you know what? Peace be with you.